The first thing that I do is take an exposure reading with the Sekonic L758 exposure meter. Then the next thing that I do is take the Air Pierce digital calibration card, make an exposure, and then color balance my camera. Now that I've done those two things, I'm now ready to prepare to photograph my model. Watch what happens as I have a great time explaining to her exactly how to use her hands, what direction I expect her to turn to when I say left or right, more importantly, how she should react to me as a photographer. This is a great part about being a photographer. As you watch me photograph this session, notice what is happening with my use of the hands, the camera, as well as giving my model directions. I enjoy what I'm doing, so I participate by getting involved in the posing, by actually placing myself in the subject position and asking myself, what would I do and how would I do it if I was that person? Here, while I'm photographing Kendra, is that I noticed she has very nice hands, so I wanted to make sure that I got some great exposures showing her hands. Of course, she's a beautiful woman, and that makes things a little bit easier for me to photograph. This is warm-up time for Kendra, and she's a little bit nervous. So right now we're just kind of playing to the camera. A lot of times that I'm working with my subjects, I'm studying my subjects to try to figure out what's comfortable for them and what are they easier about doing as far as posing. In this shot I have Kendra leaning back a little bit just to get her comfortable. Now if they have nice features, of course you want to accent those particular points. One of the things I liked about Kendra when I first met her too is that she had a nice face and a great smile. So I also try to find out how she's going to use her body so that we can accent the photography that we do by showing off her best features. Keep watching and see what else I did during this session. One of the neat things about photographing your clients is that you get an opportunity to study them and try to figure out very quickly what is going to work best for them. In the case of Kendra, this is a warm-up time for her, and so I'm studying her every move, trying to figure out what's going to be best for her. I usually don't leave the camera position except to make minor adjustments to a body part or something that the model can't see. You should get in the habit of working away from the model, because this is going to give you an opportunity to give them a little bit of space so that they can operate in, feel more comfortable as they get used to working with you too. In the case of Kendra, she has beautiful hair, so we want to work on that, use her face. As you look at these images, look at her hands. She's got beautiful hands, so we're going to be using those hands in a lot of the images too. Basically just to give her a base. Now, as I work with my models, I say very unusual things to them. I kid with them a lot. I say little small things that will make them smile. And it's more natural for me to say these things to them and get a natural smile than telling them just to smile. So I'll say things to them, I'll compliment them and let them know how beautiful they look. One of the neat poses that I like to do with women is something that I call stretching them out. And basically what you want to do is have a model to kind of lay on their side, and then this gives them this elongated look to their body. It's a very flattering pose for women, and I like to use it a lot. To add a little sex appeal to this shot, basically all you have to do is have the model to sit up a little bit and to extend one hand above their knee. And what this does is really gives you a nice triangle look on their face. It's a very difficult pose, so every now and then you might have to let the model just relax a little bit, because it does require a little bit of dexterity to hold that pose. One thing that's really important about this pose is that you have to have the head tilted down so that you get this really sexy romantic look. And if you look at Kendra, that's exactly what we're getting right now. What a beautiful face this lady has. That was the main reason why I asked her to let me photograph her. I've got some other great ideas for her, but this first set of images is going to turn out really good because she doesn't really know how great she looks in front of the camera. I transition from one pose to the next very fluently, and basically I've studied her now, so I've got a pretty good idea of how to put her in positions that will make her look pretty good. As I'm working, you'll notice that I pretty much demonstrate how I want my shots to be. It looks kind of crazy on a guy doing feminine poses, but I tell you what, it really gives your subject an idea of what you expect from them, and also makes it easy for them to visually see what you're trying to document in photography. But if you have a really good model, she'll take what you have and then kind of add a little bit of accent to it herself and make the pose even better. I'm constantly looking out for things that will make my pictures look bad. For instance, hair that's in the wrong place, hands that are in the wrong place, or anything that's going to make the composition look not so great. For instance, in this pose, you can see that we're trying to work out the part with the hands. Hands are very difficult to photograph, and I spend a lot of time in my early years of being a photographer studying images that show how to pose the hand. Another thing that you can do to learn how to pose hands is to really study women. They really use their hands quite well. And especially if you're going to be photographing female subjects, you need to know how to place their hands in positions that are really flattering to them. Here we have a combination of just posing the hands. I'm having Kendra to go through a series of poses where we adjust her hand so that it looks really good on her. One of the biggest secrets to my photography is talk. I really talk a lot to my models, and it helps them to relax. It also gives them confidence about what they're doing. And more significantly, it gives them feedback as to if they're doing pretty good. Most of the time, even if they're not doing good, I make them feel like they're doing great. A lot of times when I'm working with my subject, I'll tell them to do something. I really don't expect them to do it. I just want to find out if they will do it, and if they do it, how do they accomplish it. And a lot of times I come up with some really great poses this way, because it's something that is very natural for the person to do, but it's something that I would not know they had the ability to do it. And so pretty much I come up with some great poses this way. On this particular shoot with Kendra, the neat part is that her husband was helping me photograph this session, and most of the time I really don't let the spouse comes along or the boyfriend comes along because of the things that I say to the models, which is really a little bit personal sometimes. But in this case, Mike came along, so Kendra was a little bit hesitant about relaxing and being herself, but still I think she did a great job. Pretty much I call these poses working out poses. I'm just trying to find out just really what Kendra is all about. And so we kind of put her through some paces. Make her go left, twist her right, make her turn her head, little small adjustments. And one thing I can say about Kendra in this particular session is that she did very small movements and corrections, which is really good, because that way if you have a good pose, you don't have to go to extremes to correct it. So she did pretty good on this. In these images I'm showing you the entire body part, but I really shoot very tight, especially with the 70 to 200 millimeter lens. I absolutely love this lens because you can get very tight on your subjects and really fill a frame with it. So even though I'm showing you a lot of full body composition in the video, 99% of these images are pretty tight. I consider myself a face man because I really love the facial structure of people's faces, and so I do a lot of very tight shots of people's faces. From time to time I'll take an exposure meter reading, and the reason for this is I've changed location and I want to make sure that all my exposures are consistent. If you're not using a light meter, I can honestly tell you you're really not getting the best quality exposure that you can by using the meter in the camera. I have to admit that several years ago I stopped using a light meter when I became a digital photographer, but I've since learned that that was one of the worst mistakes I could do. So constantly now I take exposure readings. I also do the light balancing with the Ed Pierce digital target. A lot of times I'll shoot the target, but I won't color correct it in the camera. But once I get back into Lightroom for post-production, that's when I use that target. So even though I'm shooting it, I basically shoot everything in the automatic setting. And a lot of folks say that's not correct, but that's the way that I do it.